Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre, coming to you from Mumbai. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight we're going to be looking at how India's financial capital is looking at the state of India's economy as Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes close to completing 1 year in power. Is the economy finally showing signs of turning around, or is India Inc. getting impatient with quick results? Are they expecting too much too soon, or are things finally looking up as far as the economy is concerned? The reason I say that is because the IMF this week has said that it is really has a much more positive outlook as far as India is concerned. It has said that the Indian economy will expand at 7.5% this year, up from the 6.3% prediction that was made in January, and they believe that it will remain the same next year. In fact, China's growth is projected to slow down and India's growth is projected to go up. The question is whether this optimistic sentiment is something that is shared by the financial capital of this country, by India Inc., because there have been some industrialists who have expressed concern in recent days about the state of the economy and the progress with which, or the lack of progress as far as reforms are concerned. First up tonight though, I'll play out an interview I did earlier with Mr. Ajit Godrej on this very issue. Mr. Godrej, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. Sir, my first question really is that as Mr. Modi completes 1 year in power, how do you assess the state of the economy today?
I think overall the handling of the economy has been good. Very clearly, already there is a very strong perception of the economy recovering. A lot of steps have already been taken in terms of reform, in terms of objectives, and I expect the economic growth will pick up very soon, and I expect that from this year onwards, for several years, the GDP growth of the country will be 8% plus. And if we are able to put the GST in place by 1st of April 2016, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with double-digit growth in the next financial year.
There are some though in Indian industry, unlike you, who have expressed concern that things are moving too slowly. There was a tweet by Harsh Mariwala last week who actually said that he believed the government was losing sheen, that things were going too slowly, that if he had heard if there was an election today that they would win only 200 seats. Now your view is very different. How do you respond to what Mr. Mariwala has said?
Well, first of all, I don't think my colleagues are saying that. Now, I don't know if there are some voices, but we were at the CII annual meeting just a few days ago. We had a very positive feel about the economy from most of the attendees.
There are also other voices, like Sanjay Kirloskar, who told NDTV in Berlin this week that, he believes that the church attacks in India have worried foreign investors, that there is a slight concern among Western countries that he says is visible among foreign investors. Do you share that concern as well?
Yes, I think the government needs to control these elements which are trying to be overly Hindutva in their approach. So I think that already I feel some ministers have already condemned it. The Prime Minister has already said so. And I think that needs to be contained. Because if that kind of movement spreads, it can create disturbances.
So you do believe that this has impacted investor sentiment?
Well, I don't think it has in any way dampened investor sentiment as of now, but if such things continue, it would.
Finally, Mr. Godrej, what do you think is the biggest economic challenge then going ahead for the government in the next few months? Do you think that it's going to be the land bill, especially if for political reasons the government has to dilute it significantly?
Well, I think what the government has done in terms of amending the Lands Act that was passed is, I think, good. I think it's important that these amendments go through because that will clearly help development. But I think the most important reform to help development and growth is the goods and services tax legislation, because that legislation alone would add 2 percentage points to our GDP growth rate, in my view, other things being equal.
All right, Mr. Godrej, thanks very much for joining us on the program tonight. And so Mr. Godrej there saying a number of important things. He believes that the outlook for the economy is positive. but at the same time he is also in agreement with what Mr. Kirloskar says about the perception regarding church attacks, that it's not something that has impacted investor sentiment yet, but he says it could impact it in the future. Joining us tonight on the program, the former Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Mr. Prithviraj Chavan. Also with us, industrialist Ajit Gulabchand, Sajid Chinoy, well-known economist, here on location with us, and Shaina NC of the BJP joins us as well. Mr. Gulabchand, let me take this question to you first actually. What is your assessment? Because you hear very different voices from India Inc. Finally, you have international agencies that are a little more positive about the long-term prospects of India's economy. Do you share that positive thought, or do you believe that indeed reforms have been too slow?
No, I believe in the positive thought, and I think that there may be some areas on which reforms have been slow, and they will come. To expect that so many big reforms will happen so quickly, I think is a misnomer. We must understand that the biggest reform the Prime Minister Modi has carried out is the abolishment of the Planning Commission. Planning Commission or central planning was the center of socialistic Marxist control of the resources of the country. And I think doing away with that is the biggest economic reform that Mr. Modi has carried out, and I think we must congratulate him for it. He also, in order to get the government on the right track, created a policy commission so he can create policy options for the government, and therefore will be able to have choices. And I think this is an extremely important economic reform that has been forgotten. Second is, you mustn't forget that the first responsibility of any government, and particularly the head of government, is the security of the people of India. And he has been absolutely exemplary in making sure that our immediate environment, as well as on the larger countries of the world, he has connected very well, both from point of view of the security in terms of defense, as well as in terms of trade. And I think this is an extraordinary achievement of the man. The next important thing that we have seen here
Do you share any of the concerns that have been flagged by Mr. Godrej and Mr. Kirloskar in particular, where they believe that the extraneous noise, in a sense, of Hindutva elements and the church attacks and that all of that, in a sense, could create a perception problem among foreign investors? Do you share that concern?
No, I'm sorry. I'll tell you, no, I don't have that concern, in the sense that, yes, there is pain still on the street. There's no question about it. But to expect after the huge mess the Sonia Gandhi-led government has made, that things will clear up so quickly is itself an expectation that is too much. So I think they are taking time, but they will surely get there. But to come and blame them and being impatient while you watch the complete disaster that the Sonia Gandhi government caused to this country very patiently, I think we need to be careful when we talk here. We need to understand that this will take time.
I think Sajid Chinoy, the point is that have there been very high expectations? Everyone is impatient. Where's the change? Where's the change? In your assessment, as we come close to that 1 year mark, has it been satisfactory?
So I think both things can be true, that expectations were unrealistically high. We're looking at a deep-rooted investment slump, corporates with very high levels of leverage, balance sheet problems. Around the world, these things take many years to play out. To expect someone to have a magic wand and wave all of that, I think, was never realistic. So I think we've got to understand that the next set of reforms involve labor, land, energy, the financial system. These are always the politically most sensitive, and therefore you've got to mix slowly. I think the government's had 2 good months. I think from the budget onwards, the focus on infrastructure, coal reforms, mining reforms, insurance reforms, give a sense that there's a momentum building up out here. But we've got to be very, very realistic. I think for India to accelerate over the next few quarters is going to be slow. It's going to take time, because I think many constraints still bind. I think land acquisition becomes primary of it. So until I think land acquisition is tackled
Do
satisfactorily,
you think that's the biggest
I
challenge?
think that becomes almost a litmus test. It is the binding constraint for a lot of large investment today. High levels of leverage, we keep kind of brushing this over. Until those leverage levels don't come down, bank balance sheets aren't cleaned up, hard to expect a big pickup in growth. So I think we've got to be realistic.
Mr. Chavan, would you say that, politics aside, that everybody does need to give the government some time in order to effect serious economic change, and that impatience will not help, that political slogans will not help, but they do need time, and maybe 1 year is not enough, that they need longer than that, as Mr. Gulabchand was saying?
That's not fair to say that. I think 1 year is a long enough period. After all, the government is elected for 5 years. Already 20% of the time is over. Then last year is election year, so you got only 3 years left. I think expectations were raised, and rightfully, because people voted overwhelmingly in favor of Mr. Modi, and industry rightly expected things to change. It's right that nobody has a magic wand, but what has the Prime Minister done? He has coined many nice sounding slogans. All these ideas about Make in India, about Clean India, about Clean Ganga, or smart cities, bullet trains, they're all nice sounding slogans which make us all feel good. But have they been thought through? I'm sorry, they've been completely just slogans and tokenism. Prime Minister also has not engaged enough with industry and economy. He has been going all over the world, and he's taken a lot of interest in foreign affairs and maybe national security, and he needs to do that also. But I think he has not engaged enough in economy, with industry, and industry's expectations need to be assuaged. Now we don't see any great amount of foreign direct investment coming in. The government has been extremely lucky in terms of oil prices, and I think whatever positive numbers that are coming out is primarily translating out of the bonanza that we got out of the low oil prices.
Well, actually, the IMF is attributing it to oil prices as well, but it is also saying that whatever recent policy reforms have taken place, they may not be as fast as many in industry wanted, but they are giving that credit as well. So it may take time, but you're saying, Mr. Chavan, that you believe it's more sloganeering and less work on the ground. That's the bottom line. That's what you feel.
Well, that's, if you talk to the industrialists of Mumbai, they are not at all happy. They're disillusioned. That they don't expect things to happen. There are so many things which need to be done. I mean, banking crisis is looming in front of us. Environmental laws, a lot of things were said, but nothing has happened. This government has only signaled through Planning Commission change that is going to be a moving towards free market economy completely, the American capitalism fully, and it has pleased some people definitely. But what it did about, say, land bill, the complete U-turn on land bill, the complete U-turn on GST, complete U-turn on insurance. I mean, they were completely opposing all these things which Congress, UPA government brought in. But now, the moment they have come into government, they have taken up together.
Before I come to China,
Mr.
Gulabchand has a point he wanted to make. Mr. Gulabchand had, I think, a point he wanted to make on what you just said, Mr. Chavan.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Gulabchand.
Yeah.
I should be able to reply to that.
Prithviraj, when Sonia Gandhi made a mess of the Indian economy, you watched and even applauded. And now you're getting impatient with a little delay on some issues. I think this is not fair. And this is not this is not the way to look at it.
Delay.
Because here is a huge mess
that's the way I
created
look at it. That's the way Indian industry
everybody watched, and you were one of them. But you cannot turn around and say that now just a little delay in some issues is a terrible thing to happen.
Little delay.
To rectify this will require time, will require study, and will need to be able to done with some.
Well, I think Mr. Chavan is making the point that it's not a little delay. No, but then I take this point to China.
Look at the slogans that Prime Minister has made. Now look at the slogans that Prime Minister has coined and the phrases that he has made. What do you see anything solid coming out of that? 1 year has gone, and there's nothing but photo opportunities and just visiting places and cutting
10 years of disaster.
What happened on the ground?
1 year has gone is worrying you.
Has it translated has it translated into real benefit to India state? Now look at FDI. Why India is not coming?
May I say something?
Now, if you give signal, wrong signal like attack on churches.
Yeah.
No, like attack
Hope
on churches,
has come
beach
back to
bans,
this country.
I want to
and banning
take that point.
English,
I want to take that
yoga.
point to
What is
Shaina.
this?
No, Shaina, the point is that as Mr. Chavan says, his criticism is that it's a lot of great slogans, a lot of good slogans, maybe some numbers are picking up, but it's just not enough, and 1 year is a long time. Shaina.
10 years of mess is not a long
I'm
time.
glad it's Mr. Gulabchand who retorted and replied to him and not us. And he's absolutely right. It's more than 10 years of a mess. And I just want to read out one point which is very, very crucial in this IMF report, which says for the first time since 1999, India's rate may eclipse that of China's. The fact that we are growing from 7.2 to 7.5% shows that our GDP is increasing and China, on the other hand, is decreasing. The fact that India, which was known as a consumption market, is today turning into investment-led growth market. That in itself shows that Mr. Narendra Modi, as Prime Minister of India, has not just done an astounding job. And let me please tell Mr. Prithviraj Chavan with a lot of respect that him traversing the world over and bringing billions of dollars to India is only one aspect. But the respect he has got the nation at large, in the world community, in the business community, I don't think any Prime Minister post history has been in a position to do that. Talking about the local level, whether it's the Jan Dhan Yojana or whether it's the land acquisition bill or whether it's ensuring that agricultural output is increased in each state, I think his coordination with the states at large is something that the Congress never did. And for them to sit here impatiently commenting 1 year down is literally jumping the gun, because it's 10 years of their mess that we are trying to undo in the first year of being in power.